Good morning and welcome to our Bible in a Year journey. And today we are dealing with the last of the three angry men, one of the great minor prophets, actually, Zephaniah. So this is an introduction to Zephaniah. There are 12 minor prophets in the Bible, and it doesn't mean that they're less important, but it's just that generally they spoke less. And there's less kind of space in there, and it's about the quantity of work that's being handed, not the quality. But Zephaniah, unlike some of the other prophets who were, we've looked at farmers, we've looked at rural people, we've looked at people maybe who come into places of power. Zephaniah was a person from a place of power. He was the grandson of King Hezekiah, and he is related to the young King Josiah. So he was a nobleman, person who grew up with privilege, who grew up with position, who grew up with power and wealth. But he is, I guess, in a way that Habakkuk is looking at the world as a watchman, Zephaniah is viewing God as a watchman who is shining his light, shining his lamp onto the dark places that are around in the world and in society, so that he might illuminate those kind of places. And a bit like Amos, maybe he's kind of developing Amos's kind of language here, that God is speaking his judgment on those places and those systems that are causing so much damage in the world, and that moral corruption that exists in society that causes so much damage to the world in which God is king, and where God has created us to live. And that there is a day of reckoning coming. And we see that right in the first chapter. A day of reckoning is coming for those systems, and particularly those oppressive systems, which for Zephaniah are the Babylonian invaders that have come and wreaked havoc upon Palestine. But it's that they are seen as an agency of God's judgment upon his people. Very often when we see these calamities take place in the Old Testament, it's because the prophets say that God is angry and has given his people up to these particular armies or invaders. Remember, when we talk about the covenant that God made for his people to live in the land, that covenant was always a conditional covenant that was, if they lived as his people and if they lived faithfully to the covenant, then they got to stay in the land. And when they ceased to live faithfully, very often they would forfeit the land. And that was part of that ongoing process that we see several times in the Old Testament. But there is hope. Despite all the challenges that are there, and all of the difficulties and all of the judgment that is spoken by Zephaniah, there is hope towards the end. And I want to read you just a few of the closing verses of Zephaniah, which you're going to read today. Again, a three-chapter book to look at. So this is what we read from chapter 3, verse 9. This is the hope of the restoration of the faithful people of God in Israel. So God says, "Then I will purify the lips of my people, that all of them may call upon the name of the Lord and serve him shoulder to shoulder. From beyond the rivers of Cush, my worshippers, my scattered people, will bring me offerings. And on that day, you, Jerusalem, will not be put to shame for all the wrongs you have done to me, because I will remove from you those who revel in your glory. Never again will you be haughty on my holy mountain, but I will leave within you the meek and the humble, the remnant of Israel, who trust in the name of the Lord. They will do no wrong. They will tell no lies. A deceitful tongue will not be found in their mouths. They will eat and lie down, and no one will make them feel afraid. Sing, daughter Zion. Shout aloud, Israel. Be glad and rejoice with all your heart, daughter Jerusalem. The Lord has taken away your punishment. He has turned back your enemy. The Lord, the King of Israel, is with you. Never again will you fear any harm. On that day they will say to Jerusalem, do not fear Zion. Do not let your hands hang limp. The Lord your God is with you, a mighty warrior who saves. He takes great delight in you. He will quiet you with his love and rejoice over you with singing. I will remove from you all who mourn over the loss of your appointed festivals, which is a burden and reproach for you. At that time I will deal with all who oppressed you. I will rescue the lame. I will gather in the exiles. I will give them praise and honor in every land where they have suffered shame. And at that time I will gather you. At that time I will bring you home. I will give you honor and praise among all the peoples of the earth, when I restore your fortune before your very eyes, says the Lord. So there is hope within that difficulty, within that judgment. There is hope that God is working to restore. And I guess as we look around the world and we look at our culture and we look at our lives at times, and God shines his lamp, his watchman's lamp, over those dark areas of our lives, and he speaks words of correction to us, it is always done with that purpose and hope of restoration, that he will restore us to the people that he has created and made us to be. And so as you read these words and as you think again about these common themes that come up in the minor prophets, maybe make it personal for you. What is God shining his light on in your life, that you might receive his correction, but you might also receive his restoration as well. So as you read this today, may God bless you.